Okay, well, why don't we get started? Welcome everyone to this was supposed to be our in-person Community Advisory Council meeting that was supposed to take place in April. And at that point, we decided to delay this meeting in hopes that we would be able to come together in person. But in light of everything that's going on, in person wasn't feasible to go too long without meeting. We really count on your input on some of our key projects and want to hear how you're doing and share some updates. So we decided to have the meeting today. So our meeting, because we're meeting virtually, it'll be a little shorter today. We'll meet from now until 11:30. And in a moment, we'll do some brief introductions so we know who's on our Zoom. I'll give some very brief updates because we really want to be hearing from you how things are going with you. And we'll talk quite a bit about what's going on with the pandemic, COVID-19, how it's affecting everyone. And then we'll do we'll do two work group discussions. One will be on community supports and services, projects there. And Angela will lead that session. And then on education and training, and Elizabeth Jenks will lead that session. So we'll divide into two groups and have some discussions. And then we'll wrap up and there'll be an evaluation sent to you. So any questions on just the format for today?
Sharon, I'll share one thing. I just want to let everyone know we are recording this meeting today, and we'll have a private link available after the meeting of the recording if anyone would like to rewatch it for notes or for those who cannot make it today.
Okay, thanks. Okay. And look, this is going to be an informal meeting. Feel free to unmute yourself. There is a chat box, but I think we're a small enough group that we can just unmute ourselves and just speak up if you have questions or have something urgent to share. So if let's see here, down to, we're going to just do some introductions. And what I'll do is I'll just call you out how I see you on my screen. So I see, and if you could just say your name, what part of the state you're from, your experience with disability, and if you're with an organization, if you're a family member, whatever your experience with disability is. So Mike, I see you at my top left of my corner. So if you could start.
Yes, having the last name with a B. My name is Mike Bray. I am originally from the Upper Peninsula, but have lived in Southeast Michigan, specifically now in Oxford for the last 20 or so years. Work with Sharon and Angela and Elizabeth at my DDI. I'm also part of my LEND. My experience with disability, grew up with a cousin with autism. And I also have a couple cousins with Down syndrome, and just always grew up playing with my cousins. So I think that's it from me. Hope everyone's well.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, this is always fun for you because you don't know who I see next, but next I see Ed Carlson. So Ed,
Mike. Hi.
Hi, Ed.
Good. I had the virus for a while, for 6 weeks. So I was locked in the room for six weeks. Because I had the coronavirus.
Welcome, Ed.
But all better now.
Good.
Glad you're better.
Yeah, glad you're better and glad you're with us today, and always nice to see your face. Hopefully soon we'll be seeing it in person.
Right.
Well, thanks, Ed. Next up, I don't see your face, but I see your telephone icon, Janie. You can introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Janie Vermeulen. I'm from Canton, Michigan. My advocacy work is through community living services as a peer mentor. I'm also on my DDI council. I've been many hats. And I also applied to be on the board with Sam. I have not heard from them unless they did put a message on my phone, which changed our phone system. So I don't know how to retrieve the message. So I did have a interview with the board members along with Angela.
Yeah, and I don't know, Angela, if you have any updates on when, if any of that, but
Yep, very soon, Janie. No worries. The board is going to vote on the slate of nominees at its next board meeting next Friday. So you should-
Okay. All right.
so no news is no news.
Right. No news is no news.
Great, thanks, Janie. Okay, next
Yeah.
is Bob Stein.
Good morning. I'm Bob Stein, General Counsel with Michigan Assisted Living Association, and our nonprofit organization represents nonprofit providers throughout the state that support persons with disabilities in various residential settings, including self-directed living arrangements and group homes. And I'm glad to be participating this morning.
Glad to see you. Glad to have you here, Bob. Next up, Elizabeth.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Jenks. I'm the Associate Director of Training and Education at my DDI. And let's see, I was born in East Detroit, Michigan. Now it's called East Point, but it was East Detroit in those days. And I made it all the way to the west side of the state, lived in Holland a while, and that's where I had my sons. And my son Robert has intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that's my experience with disability. And then I made it back to the west side of Detroit, where I'm reside now. So welcome, everybody.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Angela.
Good morning, everyone. Angela Martin. I work at my DDI. I live in Oakland County, and my connection to disability is I'm a family member and involved at my DDI and work on our community support and services area. So thanks. Happy Friday, everyone.
Thanks for reminding us, Angela. Next up is Chris.
Good morning. I'm Chris Lurchin. I am the parent of an adult daughter with developmental disabilities. And I worked at the ARC as executive director for about 30 years and retired a couple of years ago. And now I'm volunteering. I'm serving on the department's developmental disabilities. It used to be practice improvement team. We're changing our name to now the advisory committee, policy advisory committee. So I'm serving in different roles as a volunteer to try to promote inclusion, self-determination, civil rights for people with disabilities, and I'm very glad to be here.
Hi, Chris. How's retirement?
It's great. Everybody's retired right now.
Yeah, don't rub it in. Okay, next on my screen is Nicole.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Nicole Lawson, and I am the Deputy Director for the Oakland Community Health Network. I've spent a good chunk of the last 20 years providing services throughout the mental health system in the Thumb and in Livingston County, and then landed in Oakland about 10 years ago. I also now live in Oakland County, and I am also the parent of a daughter with developmental disabilities. Happy to be
Welcome.
here. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Nicole. And this is your first meeting, correct?
It is, yes. After
Okay.
Kathleen Kovach retired, I was invited to
Right.
take her place. So I'm very honored and will do my best to fill those bronzed shoes as best as I can.
Yes. Well, we're happy to have you. And we can talk offline if there's any materials I can send you about the council.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Liz.
Was that Liz Bauer that you were?
Yes, you know what? Amazingly, you're the only Liz now. We were.
Okay, well, yeah, I had moved my picture, so I didn't see me. Well, I guess I've been involved in human rights and civil society ever since I graduated from college, and worked in New Jersey, New York, closing institutions and fighting for the right to education back in the 50s and early 60s. And after 9 years of doing that, my third child was born with severe disabilities. So I had up close and personal experience with the work that I had been doing because I thought it was the right work to do. And so I just have kept on doing it for the rest of my life. So I just have a long history of advocacy and elected positions, and any role I could fill where I thought I could change how society supported individuals with disabilities.
Happy to see you here, Liz. Very glad you're a part of our council. Right. Next up is Kimberly.
Good morning, I'm Kimberly Hoga. I'm the IDD clinical specialist for Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network. I've been there a little over a year now. This is only my second meeting with this group. I have been working with individuals with disabilities for over 20 years, and I, like Michael, have cousins with various disabilities that I have grown up with and seen their lives and just learned to advocate for them because of the challenges that I've seen from them and their perspective. So that kind of brought me into this role that has been lifelong. And I live in Oakland County, but I work in Wayne County.
Great, thanks. Neva.
Hi, I'm Neva Nahan, and I live and work in Wayne County. I work at Wayne State University School of Social Work. I'm the Associate Director for the Center for Social Work Research. I am the parent of a 26-year-old daughter with developmental disabilities, and I've worked with my DDI on and off, most recently helping with the needs assessment for the, is it a charter or the reinstatement?
For a core grant.
For the core grant, so, okay.
Believe it or not, that'll be coming around again in the not too distant future. So.
I was just thinking about that, yeah. Actually, I was just thinking, how can we get more people with disabilities to have input on that survey?
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, that every 5 years we do a renewal of our core grant, and it requires a statewide needs assessment. So that'll be in about a year and a half from now that we'll need to go again. Okay, now, but it's funny, my screen has now switched. Some people must have joined, so I'll try and make sure I capture everybody. So next up, I believe, is Alice.
Hi there, Alice Frame. I live and work just outside of Lansing. I coordinate the Disability Public Health Program for the state, housed in the Department of Health and Human Services. I am both a person with physical disability and a family member of individuals with both physical and developmental disabilities.
Welcome, Alice. Next up is Barb.
I'm Barb Value. I'm public policy specialist for United Cerebral Palsy. I live in East Lansing. I'm originally from the Saginaw area. And I have CP.
Welcome, Barb.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi, great to see you. It's very nice, a nice feeling to see everyone's faces. Next up, and I think the last, but we'll double check that, is Vendela.
Good morning. I'm Vendella Collins, and I live in Detroit, work in Lansing. I have worked with people with disabilities for more than 40 years. Right now, I work with the Developmental Disabilities Council, and obviously work with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So, good morning.
Good morning. And let me just see, I think, is anybody out there that didn't get to introduce themselves? I think, I know Jane Turner will be joining a little late, and I'll let her introduce herself when she joins in. So why don't we get started? Thank you so much for joining us. So happy to see so many of you. So as I mentioned, oops, go down here. I just wanted to start with some, I'm going to keep really brief updates. As I said, I really want to hear more from you about what's going on in your world, as well as some highlights. So Neva, you mentioned our charter. So as part of our federal mandate, well, as part of our being a University Center of Excellence on Developmental Disabilities, we have to be chartered at our university, which is Wayne State University. And that's every 5 to 6 years. Technically, our charter expired at the end of 2019, but I report to the provost, and he gave us an extension on our charter because there was some logistics on the university side of things. And we were supposed to have, I did a very involved application process and providing all kinds of information. And then sort of putting the bow on the package was going to be a site visit that was scheduled for the week when all the pandemic stuff started happening. So I think that was one of our very first things that we had to cancel. And several of you were going to be part of that site visit. So thank you for being, the university wants to hear from self-advocates and family members, as well as university people. So that had to be postponed. It has not been rescheduled, and I don't know when it's going to be rescheduled. So just stay tuned on that. But the good news is that we are approved with the university for as long as we need, because we have a very supportive provost. So any questions on the charter? Okay. The charter is basically, just so you know, means that we're an official center or institute at the university. So we're recognized in that way. It's a designation. So there have been some key funding opportunities. And I apologize in advance for these acronyms. So I'll tell you what they are. And then Janie, I know you probably can't see our slides. I'll make sure you get these along with everyone else. We'll send these slides out to you. We had submitted in partnership with Michigan State University to become what's called an IDDRC, which stands for Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Research Center. There are 14 such centers across the country that are funded through the National Institutes of Health, NIH. And we had applied, lost track of some of the dates, but we had applied, and I think it was in, let's say, January-ish, and we did not get selected, but we did get feedback, and it was very doable to fix some of the concerns that were raised by the reviewers. And there is another round of funding in August, and we are going to reapply to be in that group. The challenge is that there are 14 IDDRCs, and only in total 14 are being funded. So it's hard to sometimes break into, to compete with those that have been doing it for a long time, but we're still going for it. We just this week were part of a grant submission to HRSA. That is also federal funding. That HRSA funds our LEND grant, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment, and related to FASD, fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. And that is a lead with University of Michigan taking the lead on that proposal. And then Angela, I know you're going to be talking about this. Do you want to just mention this and that you're going to be talking about it in your breakout group? Well, you're muted.
Sorry. So yes, there is a new opportunity that's just been posted by the administration on community living, and it's for USEDs, university centers such as ours, to apply. And it's a planning grant to look at community-based transition, and I'm going to share more about it. I really want to get people's so quick sales pitch. If you're going to come to our council discussion, I want to get people's input to help contribute to that development of that proposal. So, but if you can't come, if you go to the other one, you can still have opportunities to give feedback. And so, and that one is a one-year planning grant.
Thanks, Angela.
Excuse me, I have a question. Will you write in the chat box how do you send what you wrote?
Okay, let me look at the chat box.
Barb, if you want to just tell Mike at the end when we break out, he can move you over. No worries about typing it in there.
No, I did. Thanks, Barb. No, I put that in there just as a heads up. I'm going to go through and ask each person as well which room. So Barb, which room would you like to be in?
Community support.
All right, will do.
Angela, nice job pitching.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No worries. So what Barb is referring to is later in the morning, we're going to break into the two groups, and you get to pick which group you go into. So we'll allow Angela and Elizabeth to give a pitch to why you should go into their breakout room, and good luck with that. We'll see how you do. Usually you each do quite well. I'm not going to. This is just more a reminder. I'm going to give a couple quick high-level updates on some projects. But what we'll do is we have what we call our scorecard, where we keep track of the many projects we have and how we're doing on them, our progress. So we'll share that with you. I think it was Liz Bauer who mentioned the scorecard last time we met. You're unmuted. I don't know if it was tough. So we'll share that with the group. So let me just give a couple quick updates. So our LEND program, it's hard to believe. So our LEND program, it stands for Leadership, Education, and Neurodevelopmental Disabilities. It's funded through the HRSA Maternal Child Health Bureau. That is our training grant to train leaders, future leaders, and grow the workforce capacity for children with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And they say neurodevelopmental disabilities, that's what the ND stands for in LEND. And believe it or not, we just selected our 5th cohort. It feels like just yesterday we were writing the grant. So we selected, this is this cohort from this year that's wrapping things up. We selected our 5th and final cohort of this round of funding. Excellent, excellent group. And just so you know, and we're going to talk quite a bit about COVID-19, but we already know, so we have trainees from across the state, including the Upper Peninsula. And typically what we've done is 6 times a year over the 2 semesters, we get together all day in person. We already are planning for our first 4 sessions to meet remotely via Zoom. So this is going to be new territory for us. And we'll talk about other projects that are being impacted by COVID-19. And then later this year, early next year, we're going to be going for the next round of funding. And I'm hoping, because we have, just to remind you, prior to this round of funding, Michigan never had a LEND program. LEND programs have been around for 50 years. So it was really nice to break into this source of funding, and more importantly, this source of work. And we will be applying again. So stay tuned on that. And then Elizabeth, you want to just give a quick plug on My Ocean? I'll let you do that if you'd like.
All right, thank you. Yes, this is our My Ocean project where we use family support navigators to work with parents, caregivers, family members who care for adults over the age of 22 who have IDD. And then we support the caregiver in goals in helping them kind of navigate, their experience with an adult. And also we promote self-care activities. We're there to reduce health stressors and improve quality of life. And we use the family support navigators who've been trained by us and a family support model to reach out across the state. And we're gonna serve 100 caregivers with this project, and we're at 70 right now. So I'm feeling good about a lot of the marketing and recruiting that we've been doing. And thanks to all of you that have put us on your websites and promoted some of those recruitment activities for us. So that is a Michigan Health Endowment Fund grant that we have.
And just wanted to let you know that this is another example of with COVID-19 that we are doing all the navigation remotely, virtually, and no in-person for now. We also asked for and received a no-cost extension. Our funding was expected to end at the end of December 2020, and we did get a 6-month no-cost extension, and that will allow us more time. A big part of what we'll be doing with My Ocean is trying to look at how to sustain the program, and we just didn't want to rush through things, and this will allow us time to continue navigating the families and focus on some sustainability. And thanks, Elizabeth, doing great work, hearing great feedback from our families. And then I just wanted to say, and then my DDI team members, if you have any updates you want to give, but we have been doing a lot. Well, actually, before I do that, anything that anyone else wants to update before I go into our COVID-19 activities? Okay. So, and Mike, I may end up having you just pull up our website while I just say what we've got. So we have, when the pandemic broke out, we very quickly tried to be a source for COVID-19 resources for individuals and families and our populations we serve. So on our website, we have a number of COVID-19 related resources. We also have a number of self-care resources, and we are funded through the Administration on Community Living. That's where we get our core funding, that federal core funding. And at the time of the outbreak of the pandemic, ACL reached out to all the university centers and said, what are you doing? And so we shared our resources, and I heard from our project officer that we were the only state that they knew that were really focusing in on some of these self-care resources. And we know how important self-care is, always and especially now. So please know those resources are there. We have Patty Ramos from our team who does a great job of keeping it current, those resources current. If you have resources you want to add, just let us know. So we also pulled together, what I'm really proud of is that these things were pulled together, as you imagine, very quickly. We also have Josh Plavnik, who's a psychologist at Michigan State University, reached out to my DDI and my LEND to pull together some tools around risk assessment and mitigation strategies. So assessing risk and reducing and limiting risk. And this focuses in on providers, ABA providers, or applied behavioral analysis. And there's a whole host of tools and information that can be used to assess risk and reduce risk. And while it's focused on, for clinical providers who work with children with autism during a pandemic, it can apply to other settings. So I think there's some really good resources there that I hope can be generalized to other settings. And also just to be thinking about if there's, knock on wood, poo, but a resurgence of COVID-19. I know there's a lot of concern around that, and just some things, tools that could be used on the other side of all this. We also had a focus group, and thank you, Elizabeth, for Jenks for pulling that together very quickly, which was with caregivers, focusing in on how caregivers and individuals with disabilities are doing. We know there's a lot of isolation and a lot of challenges, so we had to pull together a focus group, and we're working on pulling together a summary of the conversation in that data. We also are part of our network, AUCD, the Association on University Centers on Disabilities, is having weekly COVID-related calls. So Angela and I participate in those every week. And then also, another plug for Patty Ramos from our team, we were reached out from AUCD, our national network, if we had anyone that could help them coordinate. So of course this network is across all the states, all 50 states, as well as the US territories, and helping coordinate all the activities that AUCD is doing, all the resources that are coming in. We reached out to my DDI to see if it could help. So Patty has a dissemination health background, so she has been doing a fabulous job in that role. So we have a subcontract with AUCD for the next several months. So it was an honor that they reached out to us and that they see Michigan in that way. And it's really been a wonderful opportunity for us. So those are some of our high-level COVID-19. Did I miss anything, team? Feel free to chime in. I feel like we've done so much, it's kind of hard to keep track. Okay, so now I wanted to get updates for you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I want us to have as many faces as we can fit on our screen. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and just want to hear from you how if you have any updates you want to share, of course, and just any challenges you are facing related to COVID-19. And maybe if you have any strategies or things that are working well that you want to share. And then I'm curious if there are any unintended positive things that are happening, sort of the silver linings, if what silver linings anyone's finding because of the pandemic. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see, and I just want to see if anyone else joined. Oh, Amal's on. Amal, do you want to just say a quick hi and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Amal Samawi, and I work at my DDI.
Great, nice to see you, Amal. Okay, so, okay. I just did a quick check in the chat box to make sure there's anything. So anybody have any updates or just want to share how it's going for you?
This is Bob. I would be most interested in providing an update on what's happening in terms of home and community-based services, residential settings. It's obviously been a major challenge for the individuals living, whether it's in a non-licensed, self-directed living arrangement or a group home, been very challenging. Obviously, the staffing crisis has been exacerbated by the pandemic, and certainly it's challenging for the nonprofit organizations as well. Hopefully, we're seeing some level of the situation subsiding. Certainly the first few weeks were very challenging, and I do think that in terms of a silver lining, it has brought recognition to the heroic efforts of direct support professionals, and there is some funding, even if it's on a temporary basis, for higher wages. There's the $2 per hour temporary premium pay increase for April, May, and June, which has been approved through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and is in the process of being distributed. And then one other update would be Senate Bill 690, which was recently passed unanimously by the Senate, approved by the House Appropriations Committee, and that would increase the $2 per hour to $3 per hour effective April 1 through the remainder of the fiscal year. It would extend it for 6 months. That bill hasn't passed yet. We're optimistic it will. There are negotiations going on between the governor and legislative leaders on certain aspects of that bill. The House version allocates $1.26 billion from the COVID federal financial relief, and a significant portion of that is going to the staff wage increase. As far as we can tell now, the negotiations are not with regard to increasing the staff wages, although again, it's on a temporary basis for the current fiscal year, but it is a recognition of the challenging work. And again, it's certainly been equally challenging for the people living in these settings. Sharon referenced isolation. There, of course, have been not only the stay-at-home order, there have been executive orders regarding visitor limitations to residential settings. All in all, though, I think we're making progress and getting back on track with our home and community-based service initiative.
For that update.
Happy to answer any questions or
yes, please,
as well.
This is Liz Bauer. You know, I think one of the frustrations with this promised increase in wage, we're now 3 months into it. A lot of politicians took a lot of credit for raise, but the people doing the work have not seen it yet. And it really results in some disillusionment. I don't know, as advocates, what all we can do. I mean, I speak up with the powers that be, but you know, it has to come out of the Treasury somewhere. They have to process it and all of that. But our caregivers who are eligible for this retro to April 1 need our support. They've been carrying on absolutely courageously and alone, because they can't even have visitors and whatever who's, you know, provide moral support if nothing else. So I just want to say something in favor of the caregivers, and if we can speed up the process of the delivery of the funds, it would really be terrific.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Liz. There's no question. It's frustrating. The governor made the announcement in April, and the money is literally just flowing now from the department to the PIHPs. And some of the nonprofit providers that had the financial resources did proceed to provide the $2 per hour wage increase in anticipation of the funding coming. Others were not necessarily in a cash flow position to do it. You're right, though. The unintended consequence is sometimes it creates a frustration level of where's the money and when will we see the wage increase. You're right.
And if I could add a little bit to Chris Lurchin, the unemployment has given an unincentive or an incentive to stay away from working. You know, by increasing the unemployment, it was appreciated, but yet staff aren't willing to return to work because they're doing really well with the additional money from unemployment. So I don't know what Liz is saying about the delay is certainly feeding into that. I'm promising my daughter's staff additional funds, but yet they're like, well, when, you know, it's, you know, there's no incentive to come back to work.
Right. One last comment. You're right about the unemployment issue, and that's coupled with the delay in the wage increase. We're actually amazed that we've been able to provide the necessary staffing at the residential settings. Not that there haven't been instances where we would have preferred more staffing, but notwithstanding wage challenges and the unemployment issue, it's remarkable that we've maintained as much stability as we have. It's far from perfect. It could have been a lot worse, at least from our perspective.
Thank you so much, Bob. Any other questions for Bob? Other things, anyone, updates, or just how's it going that anyone would like to share?
This is Alice. I can share a little bit from the state. We have a really great relationship with the emergency response teams here, and I sit on the Community Health Emergency Command Center. I'm their functional and access needs kind of consultant. So anytime there's a public health emergency and questions come in related to disability and access, I'm part of those conversations, which is really great that it's they're making the effort to include disability in those conversations. And fortunately, they also include behavioral health. I'm on the daily check briefings, and there are, I think, 3 representatives from the behavioral health programs who are also attending. So for me, that was kind of a silver lining. You know, we have always been part of the drills. We've always been in communication with them and part of the community resilience work groups. But when there was an actual emergency, they really did step up. And that's not to say it was perfect, and that's not to say everything has been, you know, flawless. I don't think it ever would be in a massive global pandemic. But it was very reassuring to me to see that, you know, it wasn't just in times of practice that they were inclusive of that. So that's been really great.
So this is Nicole. I can give an update from a PIHP perspective as well. One of our biggest challenges through this to support the network, in addition to the wages that some folks had mentioned, you know, we committed kind of early on to a 15 or a 25% what we called enhanced compensation, but essentially a hazard pay to try and combat people doing better on unemployment and kind of stabilize our network a little bit. But the other thing was really access to PPE and making sure that staff had access and people had access to stay. Kind of echo the absolute heroics that we saw. I mean, we saw people living in homes full-time, completely sick themselves with COVID-19, caring for people who receive services that were also sick. It was just beyond amazing and beyond humbling, the way that the direct support professionals stepped up through all of this. If there's another silver lining that I would add, I will apologize. My dogs had been quiet completely up to this point. It wasn't until I turned off my mute that they chose to do this. The silver lining for us too a little bit has been the loosening of the restrictions on telehealth. You know, people who have just struggled with transportation or just they wanted the convenience of services in their own home are now able to receive services the way they want. And so I think it just lends an extra flexibility for people to have the choice for how they choose to receive services. So I certainly hope that we'll see some of those restrictions remain loosened as we move forward, just so that people have additional choices for services.
And if I could also encourage everyone to somehow market or get out the great stories that you're sharing about direct support professionals and get that into the media, and maybe those kinds of encouraging stories will inspire other people to take on those roles. So we need more positive media.
Yeah, they changed their name and I keep stumbling over it, but the Board Association for Community Mental Health Providers has been collecting, they're calling it Stories of Heroism. And they're using that, you know, to promote the public system, but as well to really advocate around direct support professional wages and maintaining that wage increase by just showing the way everybody stepped up.
Anyone other updates? These are great. Thank you so much. This is really great to hear. Other updates?
I can mention one thing. I don't know if Vandella, you wanted to comment on this too, but we've been helping the DD Council out with their weekly webinars, which have been wonderful, covering various topics related to COVID-19. I know, Angela, you presented during one of those. There's been presenters from all over on different topics, and those have been great. I can drop the link in the chat or send it out too. We've been hosting the recordings of those and the resources on our website.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, one of the silver linings, I'm gonna thank you for mentioning our weekly webinar that we do for people with IDD. One of the silver linings I would say is that I guess we knew, but it became very alive. We recognize that we have a very robust network because when the staff decided that we would do this, the weekly webinars, we had one meeting with our partners and we pulled it all together. I mean, usually it takes us meeting after meeting to really kind of hone some things in. It worked very quickly this time, and it's working well. And so find that a lot of folks have questions about, they can do things to them and able to provide them real-time resources to get those problems resolved. So it's been great. It's been great. And so we're hoping, to be able to continue to do things like this because, it helps people to be able to talk about things that are happening in their lives and they can get some real answers right. One of the things that we also recognize is we need to do a better job of getting people assistive technology. So many folks can't access what we're doing, but we're hoping that the spreads word of mouth and things like that. But I think as a state need to do a better job of getting people associated with assistive technology.
I have participated in a lot of the webinars. They have been very informative.
Thanks, Barb. That's good to know.
And I realize, and maybe this might just be for you, Janie, but there are some links that are being shared and information on, like, for example, Angela put in, if you want to join the live webinar, they're scheduled every Thursday, 12:30 via Zoom and Facebook Live. And Mike put a link in for those weekly webinars. So Janie, if or anyone who needs that sent in a different way, let us know. And as I said, we'll send out the slides and try and get these links in there as well. Any other updates?
I have an update. It doesn't concern work, but I'm expecting 3 grandbabies this year within the next 5 months.
Oh, so
congratulations.
Congratulations. So,
thank you.
Janie, we're going to need you to be prepared with photos for our next meeting. And that goes to anybody,
Okay.
Any new additions. That's so exciting.
So right now I have 8 grandnieces and nephews, so I am expecting 3 more, so this will be 11 for me.
Nice.
That's not including my other babies.
That's
That
wonderful.
I'm an aunt to, so yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Janie.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's before we break out into our 2 breakout rooms.
Well, I just wanted to pick up the thread on technology. And for me, I mean, this has been kind of stressful for me to try to work at home, but it's opened my eyes to the connections you can have through technology. When you've done these Zoom meetings before, I'm like, I really had a hard time getting engaged, and I'm learning to be engaged this way, and I can see the opportunities for, I'm an old program evaluator, data collection and other things like that. So that to me is the silver lining. So
thanks.
And this is Liz. I just want to say that we have really brought to light with the closure of public schools where students need to work online to continue their education. So the real dark spots in our state have been exposed where there's no connection. And I'm hopeful that because we have statewide data about where you cannot benefit from online or technology for any kind of resource, maybe it will move the needle forward and we can work with the big providers. You know, it's the main providers, the big old guys. They won't lay the lines through the UP in places or to neighborhoods where they don't think it's profitable to bother to put it in. But now we have, you know, 1 million school children that we know who can benefit and who doesn't have access. And I'm hopeful that that data will drive change.
That's a really good point. We found some grants and we got some grant money to get people access to tablets or to computers so that they can participate. The one thing we can't figure out how to solve is the access to the Wi-Fi. Because either it's not there, or if it's there, then how do you pay for it kind of moving forward? So that's a really good point.
And Nicole, and Liz, thanks for bringing that up. And I did hear, and I'll do some legwork on this, but some of our counterpart at Temple University, I recall her saying that they got some funding for hotspots or Wi-Fi related funding through I think it was through ACL, the Administration on Community Living. Angela, did you happen to catch that?
No, they put it in, they did something that I think Michigan should really advocate for, is they put it in their HCBS waiver. It's considered a communication device and they paid for it. So it's a waiver activity, and it has a health benefit and a community connection benefit.
Yeah, because that's been, before COVID, just the Wi-Fi accessibility, internet connectivity has been an issue, but it's really coming to light because people need it all the more. Great. Any other updates, comments? What we'll do is we're going to take we're actually pretty much on time here. So what we'll do is we're going to break out into groups for about 25 minutes, and then we'll come back together and just kind of do a debrief and then wrap up. So we're going to break into 2 groups. These are our councils where we get your feedback on our specific core functions, particularly one around training and the other around community supports and services. So Angela is going to lead the community supports and services, and I'll let you give your pitch. And then Elizabeth's going to lead a brief discussion on training. So Angela, why don't you give a pitch for why people should come to your breakout room?
Good, yeah. So if you could choose either way, and you can still contribute. So don't feel you know that you have to make a really difficult choice. This is not. We're going to talk about the potential proposal. I've asked Amal to come. She's been working on organizing information on COVID and want to get some input from folks to how to better organize it and share it. And then I'm going to give some project updates on the independent facilitation project, national core indicators, and how COVID has impacted those projects. And also share a little bit about the work that we're doing with adult brothers and sisters.
Great, thanks Elizabeth. Thanks Elizabeth. Thanks Angela. Elizabeth, your please.
All right, and Nicole, I know, I hope my dog is going to remain silent throughout the next 25 minutes as well. So, as if on cue, here she comes. So training work group. This, I'd like to kind of focus this meeting today on like celebrating some of our successes in the beginning, because you guys have been a part of the ideas that have really helped promote some of our successes this year. So that'll be a brief review. I'd like to discuss some of the results of our latest modules that we've been training that were also part of this work group's ideas around legislative advocacy. I know, Liz, that was one of your ideas and it came to fruition, helping DSPs learn to be better advocates and understanding their role in legislative advocacy. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'd like to focus the last part of the work group session on modules, future module ideas. We've bantied about some things like unhealthy relationships. I've got one that's been out there that's called Leave Your Phone Alone, because as you know, this is a big problem in the homes and different places out in the community for our people with disabilities, and also any other ideas that you all might have because you're out in in the communities and on the forefront. So that's my pitch. And, you know, you can always, if you come to my group this time, next time you go to Angela's or vice versa, it doesn't hurt our feelings. So.
How do we get to the group since?
Yeah, Mike.
I can answer that, Janie. Hi, Janie. I'm gonna you just tell me which group you want to be in, and I will automatically put you into that group, and you'll be able to listen.
I wanna be in services.
Okay, I'll put you in there.
And everybody, if you haven't already, please let Mike know which group you want. You can do it in the chat, or you can just shout it out.
Ed, which group would you like to be in? Angela's group, okay. And then Bob?
In Angela's group.
All right, and Sharon, you're the last one.
I'll go to either one, either one.
Okay.
How's that for being?
You're good. That makes it easy. So just let me know. Let me know when you're ready, Sharon. I can open the rooms up.
Right.
Okay, great. So then let's figure. I'm just looking at the clock now. It's about 5 to 11. Let's come back. Let's see how it's going at 11:15, 11:20, so we can come back and just share out. So figure about 20-ish minutes for your conversations, and then we'll come back. And so you don't feel like you have to miss out, you'll hear what the other group discussed, and then we'll wrap things up and be done at 11:30.
And Mike, we'll get a warning, right?
I'm gonna pop into each room at 11:15 and check in, and you'll get 5-minute warning. And then typically what I'll do is I can broadcast a little message that says you have 2 minutes to wrap up, and then you guys can wrap up, and you'll automatically be brought back to the main room. If you get logged off for some reason, just log back in through the link you clicked, and we can get you back in. Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and open those up then. Right now, you'll see.
I might do both.
Sorry?
Maybe I might just do part of the time in one and part of the time in the other.
Okay. You'll see something pop up on your screen here, probably down at the bottom, that says to join the other room. Janie, I believe, or Janie. Janie, I believe you'll just be routed directly in there. So I'm going to open the rooms right now.
To Angela.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
There you go.
So Sharon, before they come back, are you thinking that we'll be ready to have an in-person meeting in September?
No, I mean, hence the Bart or Homer Simpson crossing his fingers. I'll mention that.
Everybody's back, Sharon.
Okay, great. So I hope, I know in our group we had a very rich discussion. Angela and Elizabeth, I'm going to charge you with in 60 seconds or less, if you can just highlight what you talked about. We'll share notes, but just anything you want to share with the group.
Great. Very thankful for the discussion we had about the proposal, and I think the members gave us some really important. Well, they raised their hands that they might serve on the project advisory team, which I'm very grateful for. But also highlighting some really key things of building up the home and community-based services, addressing some of the challenges of balancing health and safety between people with disabilities and family members when it comes to community transitions, and how often the new development of certain housing arrangements are going to be challenging truly community participation and community transition. So we also had some great presentation from Amal, who was shared to organize all this COVID information, and so got some feedback that we need to kind of pair it into segments, not to get rid of information, but to organize it in a way that is a little bit briefer so that people can take it in. So thanks to all those that participated in the discussion.
Nicely done, Angela.
Did I take the buzzer?
I'm glad it was a good discussion. Elizabeth.
Angela set the bar high, so I'm going to try to meet that. Well, thank you to the Training and Education Work Group for your participation at this meeting. And we kind of did the year in review, talked about the challenges of taking empowerment education training to a completely virtual system, a webinar. We talked about like the fidelity of when, training, when you translate it to online platforms, how much do the participants engage? How much information do they take away? And so Alice had some ideas around how we can increase possibly our accessibility for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in engaging in the online platforms. And so she's going to share some of that. We talked about how to get the word out more about the training, and Kimberly's going to help us with the Detroit-Wayne County area. So we're going to do a lot more recruitment. We know we're going to have to continue this year, at least the first quarter online. And we talked about the benefits of that versus the challenges. We've gotten better participation because people don't have to, you know, as Liz mentioned, drive very far to go. It's convenient. You can, you know, be very formal on top and just have your PJs on the bottom. So there's a lot of benefits to that. Then we talked about some new modules that we could look at. And one of the thoughts is around developing one about, you know, hang up the phone or just leave it, put your phone down or something like that to engage people instead of being engaged with your telephone so much. So that's kind of us. And then we wrapped up with talking about this idea of doing a public outreach campaign for direct support professionals. And that's an idea that's been out there for a while, but we've just had a back burner due to all the things going on in the world today. So thanks, everybody. Hope I got in. I don't know if I got in under my minute or not. But.
Did a great job. Well, thank you, Angela and Elizabeth, for leading your discussions. And thank you all for participating in those and contributing your ideas. We really count on those. So our next meeting, you can see here it says it's going to be in person. I'd say that's going to be very, very unlikely. I put it here because that's what we have scheduled, but just in light of everything that we're scheduling, like we're looking at the land and some of our other projects. So stay tuned on this. Again, not too likely, but I haven't totally given up hope, but I just don't, I think it's going to probably be too soon. But please hold the date for the September 25th, because it's just so helpful and important, I think, to me. And I think I know personally, I get a lot out of this format. Just coming together, I get a lot out of it. But speaking of getting out or not getting a lot out of the format, please complete your evaluation. Mike, remind me, are you sending this or how does this work with the link?
Well, I just pasted the link. That is the evaluation. You can click on that and complete it right now or shortly after the meeting. It was also included on the agenda that was emailed to everybody this morning. If you don't find it or you're having trouble accessing it, please just email me and I can I can help complete it. We can email a Word copy or PDF copy for you to download. We can figure it out.
Okay, thanks. And so then we'll plan to come together in September. Any burning issues or messages to share before we sign off? You know, when we come together in person, we have a lovely feast. It looks just like this. So hopefully we'll come back together at some point and dine together. But until then, we'll keep meeting just because it's so important. And Kimberly, I love your cat. My cat is usually on. He did not appear today, but he probably will next time. So thank you, everyone. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll send you all the materials. And again, thank you, and input. So have a great day.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Mike.
Yep. What's up, Janie?
How do I do the eval?
Well, I can email it to, do you have another email I can send it to that you can access? Or
It's J Vermeul, VERMEUL at COMLIVSERV.com.
Okay, yeah, I have that. I can just send the link directly to that email, and then when you have a chance, you just click the link and you can complete the survey.
Okay.
If you have any problems with it, Janie, just you can give me a call. I think you have my number now, and or you can text me. We can figure it out.
And do it over the phone maybe too. I don't know if that's going to be something you're going to need some help with.
Janie, just let me know how you want to do it. I can actually read the questions over the phone to you, and you can answer them if you're comfortable with that as well. Matter of fact,
Well,
if you want,
yeah, I can answer over the phone.
I'll
That's
tell you
fine.
what. Do you want to give me a call in about 2 minutes? Let me check actually, Janie. I think I have your number. I can call you.
All right, because I have some errands I have to run.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's just you can do it whenever you have time. So if you're able to access it, if you're able to access it in your email, that's great. But you can give me a call whenever you're ready to do it, and we can just do it over the phone.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
And Janie, in that, I'll follow up with you regarding the project advisory team probably within the next few days, okay? I'm so grateful that you'll be willing to serve. That's wonderful.